Okay, let's work on identifying equivalent linear expressions. And what this means is we're going to be asked to read word problems and identify the mathematical expressions that could represent the scenario. So let's get started. Marvin helped his grandmother plant her vegetable garden. He planted 3 rows of zucchini seeds and 4 rows of yellow squash seeds. Each row had S seeds. Pick all the expressions that represent how many seeds Marvin planted in all. Okay, so again, the focus is find the scenario that properly represents the situation. So if we're planting 3 rows of zucchini seeds and 4 rows of yellow squash seeds, and each row has S seeds, that means each row has the same number of seeds. That means that you're going to have, so 3 rows of zucchini will be 3S because it's 3 rows of seeds. But you're also going to have 4 rows of squash seeds. So that's going to be plus 4S. So that means that 3S plus 4S would be 7S. And from there, you very simply say, well, this would represent the scenario, and so would this one. Adele and her family went apple picking at an orchard. She filled 1 large basket with 8 green apples to make a pie. She also filled 3 baskets with G green apples to give to her friends as presents. Pick all the expressions that represent how many apples Adele picked in all. Okay, so again, we're going to have to go back through the problem. 1 basket had 8 green apples and a pie, and then 3 small baskets with G green apples each. Okay, so then if I go through that, when I see G green apples each, and it's 3 of them, then that's certainly going to be 3G. Okay, and there's going to be 8 green apples to make the first pie, so there's going to be 8. So 8 green apples to make the first pie, and there's going to be 3 baskets of G, so 8 plus 3G. So that's how I would represent it, 8 plus 3G. So then what would I end up doing? Well, I'm going to pick 8 plus 3G, but then I also recognize that since it's 3 baskets, this one also represents because G for the first apple, G for the first basket, G for the second basket, and G for the third basket. So that will also be an equivalent expression. So Rose is hosting a movie marathon over the weekend. There will be P people at the party altogether. Rose estimates she'll need 1 bag of cheese popcorn and 1 pack of gummy worms per person. A bag of cheese popcorn costs $2.50, and a pack of gummy worms costs $1.50. Pick all the expressions that represent how much money Rose will spend on cheese popcorn and gummy worms. So again, we're going to have to go back through the problem, identify our quantities. Okay, so they're going to be P people at the party. Rose estimates she'll need 1 bag of cheese popcorn and 1 pack of gummy worms per person. Each bag of popcorn is $2.50, so that would be $2.50 times the number of bags, and a pack of gummy worms costs $1.50. So that means it'll be $1.50 times the number of gummy worms. So since you're using P to represent both, okay, so each 1 bag is going to be $2.50, 1 pack is $1.50. So let's see here. She wants to give each person a bag. So that means that it will be, for the $2.50 per person, it'll be $2.50 times the number of people plus $1.50 times the number of people, because every person is getting a bag. So that means that ultimately the first expression is representing here, but then you can also say, because of the distributive property, I see both of these expressions are multiplied by P. So that means I can pull a P out and leave 250 plus 150 inside the parentheses. But then I can go one step further, and I can say, well, since 250 plus 150 is 4, that's P times 4, which is really 4P, which means that there are actually this one, and this one are all legitimate representations of how to find out how much is going to be spent. Long story short, $250 per person plus $150 per person is $4 per person. So that's what we're thinking. Ed went to a fancy chocolate store to buy his sister and brother each a box of truffles. He bought X truffles to put in each box, and the store charges $1.75 per truffle. Ed also got both boxes gift wrapped for $3 each. Pick all the expressions that represent how much Ed spent at the chocolate store. So once again, there's multiple things happening. So we go back through. There's going to be X truffles that's going to go in each box. So the store charges $1.75 per truffle, and they got the gifts wrapped for $3 each. Okay, so you just have to take some time, analyze what's happening. So X truffles in each box, and there's $1.75 per truffle. So that means every time they bought a truffle, it's $1.75. So that'll be $1.75 times X for the number of truffles. That's how you pay for things. $1.75 times the number of truffles, so times X. But then they also charged for gift wrapping again. So after I pay $1.75 per truffle, I then have to add the $3 for the gift wrapping. So this is where we come up with our scenario. $1.75 times the truffles plus the $3 for the wrapping. Because in other words, this is the cost of the truffles plus the cost of the wrapping. And this is a huge strategy to make sure that you did everything correctly. Because yes, the truffles cost $1.75 each, the wrapping costs $3. So now, since there were two of the people that were going to get these truffles, that would just be 2 times all of this. So 275, 2 times 175x plus $3. And that's all kept in parentheses so that you don't forget that each of those numbers is multiplied by 2. So what does that mean? So far, we've recognized that one of our expressions is here. Now, we always look to see if we can simplify. Well, since we can't combine the 175 and the 3, we can distribute the 2. So that's 2 times 175x plus 2 times $3. And so now that means that 2 times 175 is 350, 3.50x. And 2 times 3 is going to be $6. And so now I found another answer. There we go. So 350x plus $6. And at that point, there are no more like terms. There's nothing that you can do with this. So that's the end of it. You can't combine them in any way. And so we're done. So Layla's grandmother paid her X dollars for a week to mow the lawn during the summer. Layla decided to save some of her money and spend the rest. For the first 4 weeks, Layla put $10 per week into savings. For the next 8 weeks, she put $15 per week into savings. Pick all the expressions that represent how much money Layla spent. Okay, so again, walk back through it. So she is going to spend some and save some. So for the first 4 weeks, she puts $10 per week into savings. For 4 weeks, $10 per week, that means that it will be $10 times 4. So that's 10 times 4 for the first 4 weeks, certainly. For the next 8 weeks, and in fact, let's write out the words. So what is she going to do? She's going to, so that was savings. So she's going to save some money, plus she's going to spend some money. Okay, so how much does she save? $10 per week times 4 weeks. Plus, how much did she spend? She spent, well, yeah, so from there, $10 times 4 plus, and let's not use this yet. Let's get rid of this. Plus, the next 8 weeks, she put $15 into her savings. So that would be 8 weeks times 15. So plus 8 times 15. So that's how much she saved. Okay? Now, how much all right, so let's clean this up a little bit. Actually, you got to go back. We forgot about the X dollars. Well, I forgot. Maybe you didn't forget, but I forgot about the X dollars a week. Right. So here's what's really happening. Got to get rid of this, and this is important. This is why you take your time and work through these. All right. So if she got paid X dollars a week, right, that means that she's going to get paid. And then if she's going to save money and spend the rest, she's going to deduct how much she saved to find out how much she spent. Okay? So what that means is if for the first, so when she got paid for the first 4 weeks, she got paid X dollars. We don't know how much she got paid, but we know that she saved $10. So that's X minus 10. That will tell you how much she spent once we find out what X is, but we still don't know what X is. No problem. But since she did that 4 times, that will be 4 times this entire thing. Okay? So that's the first 4 weeks. Plus, for the next 8 weeks, she still got paid X dollars, but this time she took $15 out for savings. And that happened for 8 weeks. So this expression has to be multiplied by 8. So now, to find out how much she spent altogether, you would combine the first 4 weeks plus the next 8 weeks. Okay? So ultimately, we can see that the first answer choice is legitimate, but then you also try to combine like terms and simplify the expression to see if anything else comes of it. So if we distribute here, that would be 4x minus 40, or 4x minus 40, plus distributing here will give you 8x minus, let's see, so that's 80 plus 40 will be 120. So minus 120, okay? And so now I can see a second expression. There's a second expression. And all it is cleaning it up, putting it in parentheses. All right? And so now, if we try to combine like terms, and by the way, we can see that this is close enough to know that that's not the answer. If we now combine the like terms, we can put since that technically the parentheses are not necessary, we can put the x together. So 8x plus 4x plus, this is a negative 40 because it's a minus sign, so plus negative 40 plus, and this is a negative 120, negative 120. So when we put all that together, that gives us 12x plus negative 140 plus negative 120 will be negative 160, which is really just 12x minus 160. Okay? So that means that we have a third answer choice. So this is the importance of writing everything out while you're thinking, and then there you go. Oh, okay, this is good. Let's think about that. I eliminated this answer choice unnecessarily because what they showed here was I overlooked the thought process, and this is important. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad this is being recorded because what this was I thought that these were the same two things, and they weren't. What this was they took this 4x and this 8x and they put them together here. And then they say that she took away the $40 for the first 4 weeks and the 120 for the next 8 weeks. And this is important because that's certainly something that we would all overlook. So actually all 4 of the answers are correct. So if you take your time and think about what just happened, again, because this is how much she made, $4 times X plus $8 times X. That's a fair representation of how much she made. But then you deduct how much she spent. Over the first 4 weeks, she spent $40, so minus 40. Over the second 8 weeks, she spent 120. So this is indeed a fair representation. Okay, so if you got that one wrong, that wouldn't be the end of the world, but then you'd have that experience. You can continue moving forward. All right, that's a great question. Let's keep moving. So every year on March 14th, Miss Goodman buys all of her math classes pie for Pie Day. This year, she bought 2 cherry pies and 2 chocolate cream pies for each of her classes. Each pie costs P dollars. Okay, so she buys all her math classes pies. She bought 2 cherry pies, 2 cherry pies, 2 chocolate cream pies, and there are 5 classes. Okay, so that means that each class is going to get 2 pies. So it's going to be the cherry pies plus the chocolate pies. But since there are 5 classes, you have to multiply that whole thing by 5. So how many cherry pies was it? 2 pies, so 2 times P. How many chocolate pies was it? 2 chocolate cream pies. So 2P. So that is one way to represent it, okay? You also know that you could have said, if you distribute it, so here's one of the answers. And if you distribute it, you could have said 5 times 2P and 5 times 2P. So 5 times 2P plus 5 times 2P. And so there's another answer here. So we have those 2. And if you were to simplify it further, you could have had, well, if you look back at this one right here, that's really 5 times 4P. So there's a third answer choice. And 5 times 4P is really 5 times 20P. And so there is another answer choice. So again, we find, I'm sorry, not 5 times 20P, 5, that's just 20P. So that means that all of these answer choices are valid. Dan took 4 piano lessons last month. For each lesson, he memorized 2 major scales and X minor scales. Pick all the expressions. All right, so what are we thinking? So 4 piano lessons. So each lesson was 2 major scales and X minor scales. So you had 4 lessons. Each lesson was the same. So whatever you did to one lesson, you did to all 4. That means I can multiply them. For each lesson, he memorized 2 major scales. So 4 times 2 major scales. All right. So 2 major scales plus X minor scales. I don't know how many minor scales, but I know it's 2 plus X. All right. So that means now that I have one of my answer choices. I look further and I say, okay, if I was to distribute, that would be 8 plus 4x. That's another one. And let's see, is there anything else that we could have done? Well, in this case, no, because these are wrong because they don't show that it's 8 total major scales in all. And the same one here. At least we hope. Let's see. All right, excellent. Kelly is excited to go to the used video game store to buy a gaming system later today. The gaming system usually costs X dollars, but today it's on sale for 15% off. Pick all the expressions that represent the sale price of the gaming system. Okay, so we want to know the sale price of the gaming system. Let's see. So the gaming system costs X dollars, but it's on sale for 15% off. So then to find out the expression, just like when you go to the store, it would be the price minus the discount. Okay, so the price was X. What is the discount? The discount is 15% off of X. Okay, so that would be, or 15% of X, so minus 15%, which is 15 out of 100, which is 0.15 times X, because it's 15 cents for every dollar. So 0.15 times X. So now we have one of our answers. We look again, and so we say, okay, well, can I simplify these? Are any of these the same? Well, if I look at the fact that this is really a 1 right here, if I did 1, these are both have an X, so if I rewrote this as X times 1 minus 0.15, because I'm factoring out, that means this is really X times 0.85, which is then really 0.85x. And you could also have thought about it to say if I was supposed to pay 100%, but I took 15% off, that means I paid 85% of x, which would automatically take me to my other solution. This one is wrong because 1.15x is wrong because that is adding to the price. And this one fails to consider the original price. Okay. Ariana School is having their annual awards night banquet hall at a banquet hall. Ariana got to the banquet hall early to help set up decorative centerpieces on each of the 8 circular tables and 16 rectangular tables at the event. Each centerpiece had X light blue flowers and Y dark blue flowers. Pick all the expressions that represent how many flowers Ariana used to make the centerpieces. Okay, so if we're thinking about it from a standpoint of what actually happened in the problem, okay, we're going to set up the tables. So they're going to be 8 circular tables, 16 rectangular tables. And then each centerpiece had X light blue flowers and Y dark blue flowers. That means that those are being put together on each table. Okay. So we're going to have, for each of those tables, each centerpiece would be X, so the light blue, plus the dark blue will be on each table, which means that X plus Y will be on each table. Now, how many tables are there? Well, there are 8 of the circle tables, right? So 8 times X plus Y, plus the rectangular tables, 16 times X plus Y. So if you think about it in that standpoint and just write down what's happening, you start to recognize what the correct answer choices are. So here's 1, got that so far. But now we also recognize, again, that X plus Y and X plus Y are common factors. 8 and 16 are both being multiplied by X plus Y. That means that I could rewrite this as 8 plus 6 times X plus Y. And 8 plus 6 is 24 times X plus Y. And there's another answer choice because there are 24 X plus Y combinations. Okay? I also could have said, well, if you have 24 X plus Ys, that means you have 24 X's and 24 Ys, which means this is another one. And then ultimately, if I look at this last one right here, why is this one also probably an answer choice? Well, if you had 8 X's and 8 Y's and then 16 X's and 16 Y's, that gives you this exact answer choice here. So in reality, all of these were equivalent expressions. So it is important that you analyze each of the expressions to see which ones would fit. Okay? All right. Last night, Alvin completed all 5 levels of his favorite video game, Extreme Treasure Hunter. In the game, you can earn profits by collecting gemstones or finding pieces of the treasure map. Alvin collected 10 gemstones in each level, earning X points per gemstone. He also earned 30 points in each level by finding pieces of the treasure map. Pick all the expressions. Okay? So, again, there are 5 levels, and you earn gemstones for finding each piece, and you have 10 gemstones in each level, okay? And that was X points per gemstone. All right, so that means that those are together. Okay, he also earned 30 points in each level for finding pieces of the treasure map. So what does that mean? Well, if I look at the fact that he's earning points from the gemstone, he's getting points from the gemstones, and he's also getting points from the treasure map. Okay, that's what's happening in the problem. And there are 5 levels, so that should happen 5 times. Okay, so how many points did he get from the gemstones? 10 gemstones at each level, X points per gemstone, so that's going to be 10X. Plus, he got 30 points for the map, so plus 30. But since that happened on 5 different levels, you have to multiply this entire expression by 5 because it happened all 5 times. And there's your first answer. Then from there, we'll say, well, can any of these other ones be equivalent to it? It appears so, because if you use the distributive property, 5 times 10x and 5 times 30, that's going to be 50x plus 150. 5 times 10x, let's go ahead and write it out, plus 5 times 30. So that's going to be 50x plus 150. All right, well, that's not this one, it's actually this one. So there's the second answer. It's the commutative property. It's rewritten in a different order. Well, you can't combine 50x plus 150. That means that you have your 2 answers in those 2. Okay, David joined the boot camp at his gym class that lasted 2 weeks. In each class, David does cardio for C minutes and strength trainings for 30 minutes. David went to the class 3 times the first week and 4 times the second week. Pick all the expressions that represent how long David worked out in all. So what is happening here? So we go back through C. So there goes cardio for C minutes, strength training for 30 minutes. Went to the class 3 times the first week, 4 times for the second week. All righty. Well, let's see. Is it doing in each class? He does the same thing. So you have the cardio plus the strength training each time. So that means cardio is C plus the strength training, which is another 30 minutes. All right. So the first week, he did that 3 times. So that'll be 3 times C plus 30. The second week, he did it 4 times. So that's 4 times C plus 30. So ultimately, that means that I have my first choice, which is here. Now from there, I'm going to look for equivalent expressions. Well, since I have C plus 30s, I can now see that 3 plus 4 is just 7 C plus 30s. All right, that means that there's a second choice. Because again, they both have C plus 30s. From there, I can look and say, okay, well, if I distributed 7 times C plus 7 times 30 will give you 7C plus 210. Well, there's the other choice. And then, is this last one accurate? Well, let's see. 3C plus 90 plus 4C plus 120. Well, if you had distributed the original expression, then you absolutely would have gotten 3C plus 3 times 30, which is 90, plus 4 times C, which is 4C, plus 4 times 30, which is 120, which is an important distinction to be able to make. And so I now see that all 4 of these are accurate answers. Josiah's parents hired a clown and a magician to perform at his little sister's birthday party. The clown costs $100 plus an additional $20 per hour, and the magician costs $120 plus an additional $30 per hour. Both performers stayed at the party for 8 hours. Pick all the expressions that represent how much Josiah's parents spent on the performance. So we're back, thinking again about the same thing. So we have the clown costs $100. Clown costs $100 plus $20 per hour. That $20 per hour is going to be important because that depends on the number of hours. The magician costs $120 plus $30 per hour. So that again depends on how many hours they're there. So to find out the total cost, you have to think about the cost for the clown plus the cost for the magician. So the clown costs $100 plus $20 per hour. So I could say $20 times H, which is H is the number of hours. So that's one expression. Plus the magician cost $120 plus $30 per hour. So 30 times the number of hours. So now I can see that I have one of my expressions. That's one way to think about the problem. Now, because we know about the distributive property and rewriting and commutative and associative, you can start to say, okay, well, are there other things that are occurring? Well, if you were to combine like terms, since these are all, I have $100 goes with 120, 20H goes with 30H. If I did 100 plus 120 plus 20H plus 30H, well, that would mean that I could make this 220 plus 50H. And there's another equivalent expression. Now, let's see, of the last two, are any of those accurate? Well, the problem with this one is that I'm not paying $100 times the number of hours. So that's not happening. So that's not true. So this whole thing is wrong. And the same thing here. I'm not multiplying 100 by H. That would be very expensive. So that's not happening. So this one is also wrong. So the only ones that were true were top left and the bottom right. But I think at this point, if you have looked and examined at all these different options, I think you should be getting the gist of what's really happening in these problems. So let me jump up a couple levels and see if there's anything else that we're missing. I think we've gone through something like this. Let's go up a level. And now we're in the challenge zone. So we're right on time. So ultimately, what you're going to do is just think about the problem. What's actually happening? It's best to jot it down and say, is this really what's happening? And so we're going to pause there. If you have any other issues, feel free to reach out. But let's get this done.